Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome to the review show where we have a look back at everything that happened over the weekend. This weekend, that is, of course, Fabio Wardley stopping Joseph Parker in one of the biggest heavyweight upsets I think we've seen in a little while. If you haven't already, subscribe, follow us on social media, all that good stuff. Straight into the action. We said it could happen, but let's be real, we didn't expect this to happen, right?
Well, to be fair, I realised we didn't actually give an official prediction last week, so we can lie this week now and say that we knew this was going to happen. We did say he had a puncher's chance last week. If any fighter is capable of landing that shot, it would be Fabio Wardley. But I thought it was a really good fight. I'll be honest, it was the only fight I watched on the card. I didn't buy the actual pay-per-view.
Don't blame you.
I found another way to watch it, but
you didn't buy it.
I was trying my best to catch up with or keep tabs on the main event with the buffering, but I got to a point in the 11th round where obviously Wardley had hurt Parker. He was up against the ropes. It buffered, and then the next thing I saw was Wardley on the floor. So I thought Wardley had gone knocked out, and I was like, my head was all over the place. So then I had to check Twitter, realise Wardley had actually won, and then I just had to go back and watch the highlights. But yeah, it was complete chaos for me in terms of what I thought had happened on Saturday anyway.
It was a great performance though, wasn't it? From start to finish. You look at, the build up to the fight, there was a different sort of persona from Parker throughout fight week. It was like there was something annoying him, in a sense. We haven't seen that sort of side of Parker before where he's, looking to prove a point, and maybe he was trying too hard on Saturday night, but you look back on that fight, the second round, Wardley had him hurt. Like, he hurt him. Not had him hurt, but hurt him. And I think it was a realization for probably everyone watching. They were probably wondering, oh, hang on a minute. Wardley has got a chance here to win. And it was a great performance from start to finish. And you talk about he had a puncher's chance. Wardley, throughout his career, you look back to the Fraser Clark fight, no one really gave him a chance because he's a white collar boxer. He's fighting an Olympian who's got a medal and all that. And then he goes and beats him, and then he stops him in the rematch. And then he was getting outclassed against Justice Hooney, and he stopped him. He did it again on Saturday night, which was remarkable from him. And he was down on the cards, which was unbelievable. And it was just, like I said, a great performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, huge credit to Parker for taking this fight, because he didn't really have to. He's got the WA in trim. He could have sat pretty. Wants to stay busy, keep putting on good fights. So huge respect to him for that. But huge respect to Fabio Wardley for what he's done and that performance. Well, like I said, we did talk about it, and we said he has every chance. And actually, we said style-wise, this is a nightmare for Parker. We can see why they've given this fight, because Wardley's got a chin. Wardley is tough and durable. I didn't think he had quite as much of a chin as he proved he had in the end. And we knew he could bang. And to be fair to Parker, he took a lot of those shots really, really well. But it was too much in the end. And we'll talk about that stoppage, because it's all over Twitter. Oh, robbery, it was the worst stoppage I've ever seen. I can't believe the ref stopped it. In my opinion, if you are up against the ropes, getting an absolute beating, not returning anything at the end of the 10th round, and then that happens again the next round, albeit I don't think Parker was hurt. I think he was hurt, but he wasn't in trouble. It may have gone on to become trouble, and I wouldn't be shocked if it was. He didn't show any signs that anytime soon he was going to throw anything back meaningful. But you put yourself in that situation, and the referee's got a decision to make, and I can absolutely see why the referee stepped in when he had to, because Wardley was just letting his hands go freely without any worry about what was coming back.
You got to show the referee something, haven't you? And he wasn't really showing him anything. He was up against the ropes, and everyone that was ringside that night, Tyson Fury, John Fury, Frank Warren as well, all of them said it was the right decision. So I feel like when people are commenting about that stoppage, I feel like they're only watching that small clip. They're not watching that 11th round of when it happened, and yeah, I have nothing wrong with it. And everyone's comparing it to the George Groves stoppage loss against Carl Froch years back.
You weren't even old enough for that, then, was it?
Exactly, but you look back to the comparison of it, there's nothing there. But I'm fine with it.
I can actually remember
Yeah, I'm not
watching
always bad.
Groves Froch fight, and that was a terrible stoppage in the first fight.
Same ref as
This
a-
wasn't anywhere near as bad, and I think the fact that Howard Foster's got form with that sort of thing, and he's remembered a lot for that stoppage in the Groves fight, is why people probably brought this up as well. To be honest, when I first saw it, I thought it was an early stoppage. I felt bad for Parker, but like you said, when you see it in the context of the whole fight, the fact that he was hurt in the second round, the 10th round, and then in that 11th round, although he was trying to fight back at some points, you could see he was just completely drained. And I think that just come from, like you said, the chin that Wardley showed. Like, every time they sort of went toe-to-toe with each other, Parker was landing big shots, but Wardley, surprisingly, was just like, I'm more than comfortable, more than happy to do this. I'll trade off with you. And if anything, it played into effectively what works out best for Wardley. And so I can see why the stoppage was justified, because I think he was too proud, if anything. He probably should have taken a knee, just taken the knockdown and got himself to the end of the round. I think he still would have been up on the scorecards going into the last round, or at least then give yourself a chance of winning the fight in the last round. But yeah, it's a difficult one, because if he had let it go and if he got seriously hurt, then people would be giving the opposite reaction of, why didn't you jump? You could see he was in trouble. Why didn't you jump in? So it's a difficult situation to be in, and we could all complain about it watching from home, but when you're actually in that scenario where essentially that fighter's health is in your hands, I could understand why it's such a difficult decision to make.
Part of me is thinking as well, you look back to that and you're thinking, just take a knee. You know, you're so far ahead in the fight.
Yeah, he should have done.
Surely the corner should be shouting, take a knee, because they know that they've got that buffer zone of...
I'm not sure you're listening in that moment. I think if you've got that many Wardley hands coming towards you, I don't think you got time to think, oh, what my corner saying at this moment? I think it is fight or flight, and some people in that moment have a moment of clarity where they go, I'm gonna do what's best for me right now, get through it, and some people go into fight and they go, nah, do you know what? I'm gonna bite down on my gum shield, I'm gonna survive this.
Pride, ain't it?
And then or go out on my shield trying, and that's what Parker went for.
I think it is a mix of pride, but I think it's something that maybe should be taught within fighters. If you're gonna give yourself a better chance sometimes of just taking that knee and giving yourself time to recover. We've seen it with some other fighters, even someone like, I don't know, Daniel Dubois he gets accused of maybe going down a bit too easy at times, but I don't know whether it's just something that's been drilled into him, or maybe the mentality he has of, right, like, instead of getting to the point where I'm gonna get stopped, go down and give myself a chance to have that little bit, that 8 seconds or whatever it is. I'm not having all those punches thrown at me, but also I can understand, like you said, when you're in the midst of that massive heavyweight throwing shots at you, you're not really going to understand where you're at. So to have the clarity of thought in that moment to protect yourself, when the natural human instinct is to just fight back or try and protect yourself in any way you can, it is going to be difficult.
Not to mention the fact that it also gives Fabio Wardley 10 seconds to recover,
Yeah, true.
to come back with another barrage, because let's be honest, he was blowing by the end of it.
If he didn't get him out of there then, it would be interesting to see what would have happened then.
Because he collapsed to the floor in exhaustion, which obviously was why you felt...
I generally thought he'd been knocked out. I was sat there, I was just like, what has gone on?
Yeah, absolutely.
It looked like he was getting the stoppage, then he was on the floor. I was like, oh...
Yeah, I think the whole thing of this comes from people being, because of the scorecards, Parker's so high up on it. It's like, unless he's really hurt. But the scorecard doesn't come into it. The ref doesn't have to care what the scorecard is. If a fighter's hurt, a fighter's hurt. It doesn't matter how many rounds they're winning up to that point.
Also, the referee doesn't know what the scorecards are. He's not scoring the fight. He's there to protect the fighters. So
you read stuff online and everyone should be... everyone's saying the referee should know the context of the fight. You know, comparing it as well. The other comparison was to Fury Usyk 1.
But the context of the fight doesn't actually matter.
But
I do feel like some fighters will get, like Fury in that fight, I think did get a...
But also
ahead of him,
you know what Wardley can do.
Yeah.
And so that context comes into it. You know, you look at, if there's a man who is known, obviously you look at that Fraser Clark fight, he caused Fraser Clark some serious, what could have been long-term damage.
Yeah. Scary.
Obviously, every heavyweight has the capacity to do that, but a big hitter like Fabio Wardley, the ref might have to take a decision that actually, even more so, I'm going to step in the same way as with Fury. We've seen them go, actually, I might be able to let this go on a little bit longer because he's shown in the past he can come back from it. But really, they probably shouldn't. There probably should be a degree of sort of neutrality to it, but you know, they're only human after all. After this fight, the Ring magazine have published their heavyweight rankings with that man, Tyson Fury, still ranked
Read them off.
number 1, below the champion, obviously, Alexander Usyk. Fabio Wardley now comes in at 2, Kabiel and Parker 3 and 4, Dubois 5, Hrgovic 6, Zhilei Zhang 7, Martin Bakole 8, Atoma 9, Fa Ajagba 10. So it's a fairly unchanged list from last time, other than the fact that obviously Joseph Parker has dropped down. Fabio Wardley has jumped right up to really being the next in line, if we're taking the fact that Tyson Fury is still calling himself retired and has come out even more adamantly that he's not going to fight again because he doesn't have a reason to do so. If you take that at face value, which I suppose the Ring magazine probably should do, Fabio Wardley is the next in line to fight Alexander Usyk.
100%.
We can forget about AJ Fury now. We've got Wardley Fury instead. That to settle whether Fury gets the trilogy or Wardley gets a crack at Undisputed. I think that's the fight Britain needs now.
Presumably now, though, Wardley has positioned himself as the man who deserves Usyk next, because
he's A-side as well with all the other negotiations going on with other fighters as well.
But he shouldn't have to fight another person. He has fought who was widely considered by a number of the sanctioning bodies world number 2, which makes you world number 1 below the champion.
We did say this about Joseph Parker about 18 months ago, though, and look at him now.
Yeah,
he hasn't fought for a world title despite a string of good wins.
How many times
now he's lost his chance
in boxing where a fighter is just on the edge of fighting for a world title, and then he takes that next fight that, you know, this is the fight now that you fight the champion and they come up short.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen it in the past?
And with all due respect to Fabio Wardley, even more so he's in that position because 2 fights in a row now, he has lost the vast majority of the rounds and still won the fight. And that's boxing. That's the rules of boxing. I'm not saying that's unfair, but it's not sustainable. You cannot constantly, you know, get that one shot. We've seen it with fighters like Deontay Wilder. Eventually, you just don't find that one shot and you lose the fight. And I think Fabio Wardley is really, it's his time now. And if he gets that Usyk fight, absolute credit to him. Absolutely deserved. He's earned it in every way. But then if you put him in against an Ajit Kabiel or even a Daniel Dubois or a rematch against Joseph Parker, I wouldn't be confident that he would go again, get another win and keep himself in that position, because I think that power he has, which is elite power, is getting him to this point. I'm not saying he's not a skilled boxer, of course he is, but there are more skilled boxers within that top 10.
There's no more skilled boxer than Usyk either.
Exactly.
Which I think...
if we're talking about that fight,
it's going to be a massive struggle, but again, they can build the scenario of he only needs that one shot, and if he lands flush on Usyk, like in any heavyweight fight, if he can land that flush shot, it completely changes the whole trajectory of what's going to happen. But when you look at it realistically, I don't think he'd have any real chance to get close to Usyk. I think Usyk will be far too clever and just pick him off technically. I think he'd just be too good.
You'd have to say Usyk would be very confident going into that fight. And that's why I actually think of all the fights available to him, that's the most logical fight to have. You know, if you're getting paid Usyk money, really regardless of who you fight, because he's Usyk, he goes, I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. This is what I deserve. So I think really that Parker fight, or that Wardley fight, sorry, makes the most sense for him. It's the most winnable fight. There is a commercial aspect to it in the sense of, but if he finds that one shot, but Usyk's been around the block a few times, you know, he's more than capable of getting out the way of that one shot, I think.
He wouldn't let him land that one shot, you know. Usyk would be too switched on for him probably, but everyone said that about this fight, didn't they? Everyone was saying, we can't wait for the entire fight week to be about Fabio Wardley potentially landing that one big shot on Joseph Parker to knock him out and win the fight. And everyone was like, that's not going to happen. So it can happen. It could happen.
But we did say that Wardley has...
Parker's got history of taking shots, like the Zhang fight, like we spoke about last week. He's got history in terms of...
3, I want to say. And we said that. We said that style-wise, this actually wasn't an ideal fight for Parker, even though if on paper up to that point, the victories that Parker had picked up suggest that he was maybe of a different level to Wardley. That's proven to be untrue. Usyk has proven to be on a different level to everybody. And, Wardley is someone. So he's not at the same level as Usyk.
I don't know. I think the best scenario for Wardley would be that Usyk goes on to fight someone else or vacates the belt. He becomes a world champion. That Parker win is technically his world title win, which there's no real argument against that. It could have been classed as a world title fight realistically if the belt was available.
It was priced as
and then he could do a world title defense against
Parker. Why not in the rematch?
Against Parker, or they could do something with AJ, or it's a chance for them to throw AJ back in the mix and go. It's a massive all British title fight. I think it would be a good fight because of the style matchup of two big hitters. I think Wardley, as he would with anyone, he'd fancy his chance, but it'd be a massive opportunity for him. It's a chance to get AJ back in a world title picture. If he gets a world title, it's massive for him and he can go on. And then you could even, if he gets a world title there, you've got a world title available for him and Fury then, which builds to that.
I do think he'd have the pick of the fights, Wardley, because I think people would perhaps wrongfully look at him as the most achievable world title route over Adjikabiel and Usyk. So I can absolutely see him having, the pick of the fights. And I actually think, the Parker rematch would be the one I would look to make, but that's just me.
What about people? I've seen a video on this, Moses Timer. I know they're under the same banner of coaches. Is that sort of a fight that you can see happening down the line? I wouldn't say next, but
no,
it could happen.
I can see it. Just there's so many issues, and obviously you mentioned AJ as well. There's another issue with Ben Davison there.
Yeah, true.
So there is the conflict of interests all over. That is the problem when. Well, because if you were a heavyweight, you want the man who tactically puts you in the position to land that big shot to win you fights. It's a surefire way to win fights, and obviously it doesn't happen every time. And Ben Davison himself says, we take the credit when they win. We have to take the blame when they lose. But they are pretty good when it comes to heavyweight fighters. They've got Wardley up to where he is now. Moses Atoma is being managed brilliantly. They got AJ back into remembering who he was, how he hit, and obviously came unstuck against Dubois. But I don't think they make that Atoma Wardley fight. I just don't think it makes sense in any
I don't
aspect.
think it makes business sense.
I don't think Frank does it because commercially it doesn't make sense. I don't think.
But they're mates as well, aren't they?
Either fighter does it. Exactly. It just none of it makes sense. I'd be more inclined to say that Wardley will fight separately. Adjikabiel and Usyk maybe fight, and then you're looking at Atoma hopefully going via the WBA route. Perhaps.
I think another interesting thing from Saturday night, the whole heavyweight saga that they had on that stage. You had Chisora, White, Miller. I think David Adley was up there as well. You had Adjikabiel, Daniel Dubois. Frank Warren's got a hell of a stable of heavyweights. And when you look at all the different matchups you touched on there, Adjikabiel, Usyk, Adjikabiel's fighting in January in Germany. Great homecoming for him there. There's so many fights out there now in the heavyweight division that can be made. And I feel like after the Fury-Usyk rematch, it was like the heavyweight division was slowly going on the downward spiral. Like there wasn't much interest. There wasn't that many of big fights happening. But I think after Saturday night, where everyone was going, Parker should win easily. With Wardley winning, I feel like this makes the heavyweight division a lot more interesting now. Because it is the most unpredicted division in boxing, but you just look at some of the fights now that you can make outside of Wardley, Usyk, and all that is it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think Usyk aside, the heavyweight division is as competitive as it's been in a long, long time. There's lots of fights you can make, and I wouldn't be overly confident that any one fighter would beat the rest. I think the children of the 90s and the 80s and stuff will say, oh, the heavyweight division now is rubbish. It's not like it used to be. They're nowhere near as good as they used to be. And I can never argue with that because I wasn't around, but I certainly think that's probably disrespectful to the fighters today. I just think they're different heavyweights.
Yeah.
And for good reason, because, that wins you fights. But yeah, I think the heavyweight division is hugely competitive right now, and there's plenty of good fights to make.
And everyone seems to be active as well at the moment. Lawrence Okoye's got a fight coming up. David Adelaide's got a fight coming up. They're all sort of planning their next moves. And Wardley now is, like I said, he's going to be calling his shot now. He's going to go, well, I don't want you, I want him,
Yeah.
So
If you could put one heavyweight fight together in 2026, what fight would it be?
Ooh.
From the list of heavyweights we've got and some of the potential matchups, what one would you pick?
If I could pick a heavyweight fight, that's a really difficult call.
I've got mine.
Mine would be AJ Bacoli in Africa. I think fight wise, AJ versus Bacoli, interesting. Both fighters evidently world level. A little bit dropped down from that in terms of where people are placing them at the moment because of losses or whatever. You've then got the Eddie Hearn and Ben Shalom kind of back and forth underneath that, which is quite good fun. And then obviously kind of mirroring the Rumble in the Jungle and stuff, and that kind of having a big heavyweight world title fight or a big heavyweight fight in Africa. Why not?
I wish we asked this before we started filming, so I had an answer straight away. It has to be Moses Ataimer. I want to see him get a world title next year. So him against
Kubra Pulev.
WBA regular, yeah, it could work.
Moses Ataimer against, I don't know, someone that if Usyk vacates his title, I don't know, Adji Cabello or something like that.
WBC.
Fair enough.
It would be a good fight, actually. Yeah, it would be a really good fight. What about you, bud? I assume you got an answer, seeing as you asked.
I would go for, especially after Saturday, Joseph Parker against Daniel Dubois.
Oh, yeah.
Because
should have
it's a
had
fight
it as
we
well.
should have had for a world title as well. And now they've both coming off a loss. Neither have got a world title. And they've got to try and work their way back to one. So I think that's the fight I'd like to see for them too.
Do you know another interesting thing? I want to know what Parker's record is in Britain or in the O2, because I don't feel like he's won there.
I don't know off the top of my
head.
head.
He's beaten Chisora twice, hasn't he, in Manchester? Lost to AJ in Cardiff. He hasn't got the best of records over here. Beat Huey Fury a number of years back. But the O2, I don't feel like he's
No, maybe not.
a win.
I was just thinking then as well. We're talking about the sort of heavyweight scene and stuff. I suppose we talked a lot about the pay-per-view situation on this card and how, we didn't want to pay it. And obviously, Frank's had his say, which is if you don't want to pay it, don't pay it, which is, he's not wrong.
Questions for us.
He's not wrong. If you're two big heavyweights, one of the biggest, WBO interim, bar any fight involving Usyk, it's just about as big a fight as you could make in terms of rankings. Isn't a pay-per-view worthy fight in the heavyweight division? Is that a problem? Because I suppose that is concerning in its own right, that Parker was going into this one, in most people's mind, second best heavyweight in the world. Wardley, big hitter, huge fan base, backed behind by Queensberry, well up there in the rankings, and that's not worth a pay-per-view.
I think there's more to it than just that fight with a good undercard might have been an argument for a pay-per-view. But
Can you think of a heavyweight equivalent fight, though, 10 years ago, that wasn't a pay-per-view?
No,
every big fight of that nature was a pay-per-view.
You look back to Sky Sports' involvement in boxing, and you look at their pay-per-views. Dillian White seems to have his big fights on pay-per-view. Anthony Joshua as well against the sort of Povetkin's and all that. World title fights, yes, but White's weren't. So I feel like the heavyweight division is always the one that attracts all the viewerships in boxing. Everyone's eyeballs are on it because, they've got that shot.
But that's what I'm trying to say. If that doesn't pull, pay-per-view worthy.
But is it?
You're
card,
also
but-
already paying for a subscription to DAZN as
That's
well.
the thing.
I
Where
suppose,
everyone's a bit
yeah,
thingied off
I
as well,
suppose.
aren't
So you're
But-
paying the £15 a month for DAZN when you're not guaranteed every month to even have a good card to look forward to. Then when you do have a good card to look forward to, you're paying that £15. Then you're paying £25 on top of that to get the fight. So you're essentially forking up £40. I don't know. I
Yeah, no,
understand
I
the
hear you, to
business
be fair.
side where you've got to make money to put these cards on. I know they can't just pluck money out of thin air. But from my point of view, in terms of, like, people don't have a lot of money to spend on,
Nah.
like, throwing £40 every other month to watch fights. And sometimes you've got to try and make it as accessible as you can. So,
Yeah,
It did seem like back in the day, though, a lot of the big name heavyweights were always on pay-per-view. You know, I look back to Tyson Fury over in Vegas against Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin. They were like, I think one of them was 20 quid and the other one was £25. I could be wrong, but people still buy them. So, I don't know. I feel like the other thing as well, I bought the pay-per-view on Saturday night thinking that I would be having a discount on the Conor Ben Chris Eubank Jr.
yeah, and that's
that's good.
Here's the talking point.
yeah.
I've gone on this morning to check and it's still $24.99. So I want to know what's going on there.
I presume they'll fix it, but it is a bit
Hopefully,
dodgy.
Otherwise, I'll be with Ben for that fight and watching on a Weatherspoons
on the
app,
dodgy
so,
stick. Yeah, no. So yeah, I think we talked quite a lot about this fight, about the heavyweights. Lots of exciting stuff going on. We mentioned the undercard wasn't great, but there was a few things to talk about off the back of it. So we'll tie this up a little bit with that. Ezra Taylor, Steed, Woodall.
Yes.
Ezra Taylor looked very impressive in that one. Obviously, Tal came in eventually towards the end. But he looked impressive in a way we thought he would.
He did, and it was his first fight, I believe, under Malik Scott, and obviously it was a late opponent as well. I think Steve Woodall came in on 5 days' notice after Lewis Edmondson pulled out, so that would have made it for the pay-per-view, I think, if they had Ezra Taylor and Lewis Edmondson.
I don't know. We've said this before.
I think that would have been a
I don't
decent
know if
fight.
it would have been.
It had a decent build-up.
Yeah, but I really like Louis, and I love Louis as a talker, but he's not an exciting fighter to watch. And I'm not blaming him for that. He wins fights, but he's not exciting to watch.
I think you would have needed something bigger.
have
You would have
enjoyed it,
needed, like,
I think
him
It was
and Ben
intriguing.
Whittaker.
It was certainly more intriguing, yeah.
Yeah, but
it was a decent performance, but you have to read into it and go, well, the guy who was fighting came in on short notice, and I think he's fighting on this money.
Well, he won't be now if he's
On
been
that
stopped.
yeah,
the
but
show he was meant to be fighting on.
I
so-
doubt he's going to be fighting
he
on.
won't be now. But yeah, he was in shape certainly. Then at least he was only 2 weeks out from
Yeah.
fight. So yeah,
All round was the stoppage.
I think it was the
So-
10th round. Yeah.
so- I'm not wrong in saying it's the same fight that the Callum Simpson fought.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah.
Callum Simpson, that was in the Sheffield arena or something. I can't remember who.
I was going to say
against,
you
but-
could potentially build towards that fight, but then you've got the Frank Warren Ben Shalom situation of trying to
Which
get,
means just don't.
get them
yeah.
to work.
That
together.
fight
That
is
ain't gonna
not
happen.
happening. I'm not going to talk about the co-main because
I heard that
I
was
was-
bad.
it
I have,
was
to be honest, I
uninteresting.
haven't watched this card.
Because I was watching Tom Aspinall on Saturday night as well. I thought I've timed it perfectly. You know, Tom Aspinall's walking out. I'm like, okay, the co-main event's just started. All right. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you boys know what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
I poked straight in the eye. I'm like, oh no. You know, this fight that was meant to last 40 minutes has now lasted only 5. So I switched it over and I'm watching the co-main event and I'm thinking, gee, like, what is this? This is so, like, boring is an understatement for it. There's another word that can describe that fight. It's a 4-letter word. I will not say it just in case. But
I don't
it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And I feel like that fight should have been lower down, you know. There's a bit more excitement in the Royston Barney Smith fight.
yeah, which
know,
by the way was a really good
Let's go
fight.
on to that because the co-main event, let's push to one side. Royston Barney Smith, I feel like there was a star was born on Saturday night. You know, he had that sort of fight where all prospects have, where you go up against someone who has been there and has fought some big names, like Danny Quartermain has done, and it's just seeing where the prospect is. And Royston Barney Smith has showed that he's at that level now. You know, there's no longer sitting around and waiting. I feel like there's 2026 for him now has to be the year of, right, let's push on there. Let's see what he can actually do. And I think it's going to be really exciting watching him.
Yeah, I watched him in the Wembley Arena in the Magnificent Seven card, and I think that was for a youth title, if I'm not mistaken. And
WBC or something, yeah.
and he was very impressive on the night, and he always has been every time I've watched him. But he's 21 and he got to 15-0 before he was put in a real challenge, which is obviously quite a long way into his career. And I think there has been a frustration, I imagine from his point of view as well as ours, that just get him out there, put him in a fight, test him, like we've seen sort of Eddie say that he's doing with his prospects. If you're not ready at 7-8-0 to fight a half decent fighter, then you're never going to be good enough to be with me. Whereas Frank is a little bit more patient. They have a lot more fighters, so they can bulk out cards a little bit easier. But yeah, I was really impressed. I thought he looked really, really good against Danny Quartermain. And I didn't necessarily think he was going to lose that fight, but I didn't think he would comfortably win it in the way he did.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot tougher. I thought we were going to see some parts of Royston, Barney, Swift that we haven't seen before. But yeah, it was a very, very strong performance from him.
What weight class is in?
Super feather.
Yeah.
So he's in the sort of Ryan Garner, Lee Wood, Reece Bellotti, Josh Padley, Josh Warrington, Mickey Conlon, kind of.
It's a couple of difficult fights about then.
What, Ryan?
Brilliant fights.
Ryan Garner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the European and British champ.
From the Safe Coast.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So, but they're obviously both Queensbury as well.
Exactly.
And Ryan Garner's going to be moving on beyond that,
Yeah.
and it's going to open up a gap for, you'd imagine, Josh Padley to try and pick up the British and European is what you'd imagine they're going to go for. And then you've obviously got, Royston, Barney Smith and stuff coming in a little bit under that. So there is some interesting fights from out there. But I think, again, I don't think we're going to see him move as quickly because he is only 21. He's a young guy.
I think that's what some people forget as well.
Yeah.
And
I find it mad when you look at it. Like when I was interviewing Amari earlier in the week, or that came out on the weekend, he's 22. He's like a year younger than me. He's got a college diploma. He's got an Olympic bronze medal. He's knocking people out for fun. It's like, oh, come on now. What have I done?
stop showing off.
I'm sat in a room talking about it. Like levels. But
life.
yeah, no, Royston Barney Smith's got time on his side.
Yeah. And another performance on there, Mitchell Smith as well.
Yeah.
Coming off a long layoff.
That was a really good story, though.
Yeah. Really inspirational as well, I feel like. But Arnie Dawson as well came in, I think, on 2 weeks' notice for that fight as well, and put in an incredible performance for an undefeated fighter as well. Didn't get the decision. Smith won for me comfortably in the end. Competitive fight, though.
I was going to say, he took some damage in doing so
did.
as well. What was the story? I missed that.
I
don't know it off.
I think he had quite a
He put on a
decorated amateur background. I think he did turn over as pro.
He was signed with
But
Queensbury years back.
Yeah, I think he went through a difficult period in life where he put on a lot of weight. So I think he's come back now. And this was, I think, they were building his last roll of the dice to make anything of his pro career. I think it was a massive win for him going forward. He really needed it if he was ever going to achieve anything. But yeah, like I said, massive performance, big win. And yeah, really impressive from where he's come from to get to this point, to get back in the ring. And yeah, hopefully you see him kick on now and reach the potential I think some people had for him when he first started.
You look as well at the end of the rounds as well. He was finishing them so strongly and then coming back, and the confidence that he had coming back to the corners as well, going to his coach, I'm winning this, I'm 2 rounds away from winning it. And, the coach is there like, calm down, mate. Like,
Yeah, right. You still
keep your head.
you have to get through those 2 rounds, Yeah.
Look, that's 6 minutes. That's a long time in this
Yeah, yeah.
sport. But no, great story, and it was good to see him win. But Arnie Dawson, fair play to him for taking that fight. I think he was 8-0 beforehand or something like that. He only fought 4 weeks ago, so he can only benefit from that and learn from it. And it's good to see that someone that's undefeated and young wants to roll that dice on a massive stage. What was Saturday night? So
Yeah, and he looked. He certainly didn't look poor. He didn't give a bad showing of himself in that performance by any means. It was a competitive
first round
fight.
or second round, he got knocked down just by putting his arms down. 10 seconds left, he's kind of relaxed, thinking about what his corner's going to say to him in between rounds, and then all of a sudden he's on his backside on the floor. So there's some learnings there from him. But all in all, I don't know if I'm just brainwashing myself into saying it about the card. I probably am.
I think you're justifying the means that you
I quite
paid.
enjoyed it for 25 quid. I quite enjoyed it, but would I buy it for 25 quid?
I was going to say, I
wasn't told that I could get a discount on Eubank Ben. I don't think I would have bought it.
Yeah, no, I think it was. Yeah, that's the thing. It was good boxing. I like. We all like boxing, but I'm not paying 25 quid on top of what is already extortionate DAZN subscription
It felt
for those fights. When, and let's be real, we shouldn't be advocating this, but there are other means to watch it. I think those other means to watch it would be less prevalent if it was more worth your money to do so. And obviously, people are always going to pirate stuff for free because that's their prerogative. But if these fights and the subscription and everything was value for money, I would pay it. 100%, I would pay it. I'd find a way to pay it. I'd have a few less coffees a week and I'd pay it. But it's not worth it.
But
So I'm not gonna.
You will pay for, probably pay for the Eubank bet.
I will, yeah.
Because you've seen the card. The card looks decent enough. The main event is going to be worth watching. The main event Saturday was worth watching, but it just didn't feel like there was enough to justify that £25 price tag.
Obviously not.
Do you feel like it felt like a sort of pay-per-view fight card that was, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years ago, where you would buy it for 20 quid? It's like an AJ Povetkin, and then the undercard hasn't really got.
Yeah, it is.
As an example,
I think certain fighters have got the ability, like AJ or Fury, they've got the ability to sell a pay-per-view because they're so big, people want to watch them and will pay to watch them. And even casual boxing not many casual boxing fans were going to look at that on Saturday and go, that main event is worth me paying £25. It just isn't going to happen. Whereas with AJ, you could put him fighting anyone really, and people will pay it because I want to watch AJ fight. There's just that different level, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to tie up? I think we've pretty much covered everything. Obviously, later on in the week, we're going to be talking about Josh Brassie, Zach Parker, as well as the Matchroom card over in Florida, which, having been said, like I said, I mentioned I spoke to Amari Jones earlier in the week. YouTube stiffed us a bit, didn't really show it or push it out to anyone. So if you have missed it, find it on our channel. I'll try and remember to link it somewhere because
Tell him so.
it was a good. I think it was a good.
Tell YouTube.
I did all right. But so other than that, we'll obviously be back later on in the week for our preview show. As always, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all later in the week.
Punches chance. Punches Chance Podcast.